So this morning, got a brick, sorry, two bricks and a block. And you're going to need a fair bit of space out to the side as well. So we'll be taking the legs out sideways during this class as well. So we can take a little breath, allow ourselves to sit down onto our block. If that's how you prefer to sit, you don't have to. You could use the floor if you wish. And then crossing the heels in towards the groin. So if you're able to come into Sukhasana. Crossing the ankles is okay if you need to. That's how you work. Just a minute really to kind of settle the breath a few times, and then we'll just take some easy sort of warming up stretches in the first few minutes. Just having a little bit of awareness of how your body feels, where there's any tight spots, especially if they're unusual tight spots. You can do some activity that's new to you. We'll bring the forearms together so there's elbows touch, and then we'll just do some wrist rolling. So it does involve hunching the shoulders round excessively, more than we would do normally, even when we're sort of hunched over a laptop or working at a desk or something like that. So if you're a little bit tight underneath the shoulder blades or across the chest and the top of the shoulders, that can feel like a bit of a challenge to get your elbows to touch. Allow yourself to roll those wrists in both ways and see if you can sort of increase the amount of flex and extension that you get through the wrists as they warm up a little bit. So you really are working into the edges. And we'll just shake out the fingers a little bit. We'll take a twist to the left, just nice and easily. We'll take a couple of breaths here. Remembering to let the groins down, the thighs release. We'll come back to the second side. Come back to the center line. Bring the hands onto your collarbones so the elbows can come together. Inhale them up towards the sky. We're making angel wings, just rolling those shoulders back. Elbows into the ribs and then across the chest low. Elbows touch again and then we lift up. We'll take a couple of rounds in the opposite direction. Release the hands back up. Take the arms up towards the sky as we breathe in and see if we can bring the palms together. Exhale the hands back out. And exhaling down. Again, trying to get those legs to relax down so that they're not lifting with your shoulders. Belly's drawn a little bit to help with balance. Hands back down. So we're going to take cat-cow, but it's a seated version. So the first thing we're going to do is try and press the top of the pelvis forwards and allow the belly to kind of protrude out. And then just relax the shoulders back and down a little bit. And then we'll tilt the pelvis the opposite way. So now the top of the pelvis moves towards the back of the mat. The pubic bone pushes forwards. We can round the spine and drop the head. As simple as that. Just working with your breath. And we'll come back into normal sitting position. Just lift the legs up, making sure your bricks are towards the front of the mat, put your block towards the front of the mat as well. From all fours, allow yourself to just slowly stretch out both legs into a plank. Make sure your wrists are underneath your shoulders. You try to keep your hips as high as your shoulders. You press away from the floor so you're rounding across the back of your shoulders and pressing out through the heels. Bring the knees back down. Allow ourselves to sit all the way back into child's pose. And as you're just taking hold of the sides of the mat, just pressing that away and out a little bit as well. And then we'll release the mat and let ourselves lift up. Take a little breath, make sure we're in a nice tabletop position. Tuck the toes of the right foot underneath and slide the leg back. Press down through the left shin to lift your right leg. Flex the foot, toes to the floor. And then we'll take the full Superman version with the left hand drawn out. Stretch out through the fingertips, through the heel. Try to get the body long, belly in, hips square to the ground. Bring everything back down to the floor. Cross over to the other side. And bring that hand down and the knee. Take the right leg back again, and this time take it out 90 degrees to the body. Allow yourself to walk your hands around towards the left side of your body as far as you can. Turn your chest open to the long side of the mat, keeping one hand on the floor. So that right hand now lifts up towards the sky. You're pressing down into your right foot as well. And we're going to lay the right hand out towards the left side, palm facing towards the floor, out to the sides. This big long stretch. Try and keep the head in line with the rest of the body so it feels a little lifted. And we'll bring the hand back. Turn the chest down to the floor. Walk the fingers around towards the front of the mat. And slide your right foot back. Draw the knee to the ground. Left leg goes back and then out to the side 90 degrees. Take a breath and we walk the hands around to the right side this time. Start to turn your chest towards the front of the mat. Allow that left hand to lift up towards the sky. Get some weight into the left leg. Then take the left hand over towards the right, stretching out. Follow in the line of your body. Turning your chest towards the sky and the hips a little bit. Just in an attempt to get them vertical really to the ground. We'll bring everything back down to the floor. And then walk the hands through to the front of the mat again. Slide that rear leg back in. We'll take the knees wide this time for child's pose. Sit onto the heels. Just walking the hands out, getting nice and low. And take a breath from here and walk the hands over towards the right side into a side bend. Hands over. Opposite side. Lift back up. Take a breath from there. Come on to all fours again. And we're going to take a version of down dog here. So first of all, bring yourself into your down dog. Straightish legs. And you want to have your feet, your sort of hip distance apart. You turn the right foot out to the side about 45 degrees. Try to get the heel to the ground. And then bend your left knee a decent distance. So now it's just really your right leg holding you up. Trying to use your tummy muscles a little bit to hold yourself over the center line. Try to get into as much of a down dog shape as you can. Last breath in. We'll bring the feet back into hip distance. And then we'll do the same with the opposite leg. We'll just turn the toes out, drop the heel, bend the opposite knee. So from above, it would look like one hip is very much higher than the other, which is what we're looking for. And it feels a bit odd. More that you've not done this before than anything else. And then we'll bring ourselves back out of that one as well. We'll take a little breath, bring the knees down to the floor. Sit back onto the heels. Take a little breath. Allow ourselves to bring the hands to the front of the mat. We'll tuck the toes underneath and lift the knees away from the floor and step towards the front of the mat into a forward bend. Wrong glasses on, they're going to keep falling off today, so sorry about that. Want the ribs and the thighs to touch. So for most of us, legs are cold, even on a warm day. They need warming up before they can straighten out to any degree. So a nice deep bend, feet parallel to each other. Let the head hang. Take one more breath here. And on the exhale of your next breath, we'll ragdoll back up. I'll take hands high as we breathe in and in towards the heart. As we exhale down to the floor, hinging at the hips, fingertips to the ground. Take a breath, step the right foot to the back of the mat. Allow the heel to drop in. We're going to come into warrior two. So bring the hands alongside the body. Float the right arm forwards and let ourselves lift up. Working into the edges. Groins opening. Front knee to little toe. Back foot pressing down. Tailbone down to the floor. Shoulders relaxed. Turning the chest ever more to the long side of the mat. Bring the hands back in towards the heart. Come down to the floor on an exhale. Step it back into our down dog. We'll come forwards into plank. Allow ourselves to bend at the elbows, coming all the way to the ground. Untucking the toes. We'll bring the hands towards the bottom of the ribs and begin low cobra. Inhaling up for 1. Inhale for 2. For 3. Keep the elbows a little pressed together. 4. And 5. Allow yourself to tuck the toes underneath. Press into the knees a little bit to help with the assist to lift back up into child's pose. Take a breath here. Lift into all fours position. And then lift the knees away from the ground and move into that down dog. We'll draw the right knee through into lunge. Take a little breath. Push off the big toes into that forward bend. Allow yourself to hang for a breath. And then bring your hands onto your hips. Allow yourself to inhale on the way up. And take the hands up again through the heart. And exhale down to the floor. Taking a breath. Left leg goes back and heel drops in. Warrior 2 for the lift. Just floating the arm forwards, plenty of weight down through the shin, which is why we want the knee over the ankle. It's moving into the edges in your pose. Now bring the hands in towards the heart, down to the floor we go. Step back into our dog. We'll come forwards again into plank and down to the floor, just as we did before. Try and keep the elbows in as you come down. Get hands towards the bottom of the ribs. Inhale, low cobra. For 1, 2, 4. Tuck the toes, knees into the floor a little bit, push back into your child's pose. Inhale, move forwards. Lift the knees, roll into down dog. The exhale. Inhale, draw the left leg through to the front of the mat, into the lunge. Push up the back toes, forward fold. Hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift on the breath in. We'll step back in towards the very front end of the mat. Get hands high. Through the heart. Exhale down to the floor. We'll take a breath. Send the right foot back, ready for warrior 2. Right arm lifts. Inhale the hands high. This time down to the floor on the inside of this front leg. Now spin the back heel towards the sky. Press the front leg and arm together. Tiger's pose. And take a breath here. Drop the back heel to the ground. Allow yourself to open up into a very low extended side angle. Press back into warrior 2. Float the arms high and down to the floor. And step back, down dog. Come forwards into plank, half plank to up dog. Roll it back to our down dog. Shiver this time the right leg, knee to the chest and through for the lunge. a breath and a press into a forward bend. Hands onto the hips, let ourselves lift. Set the hands high again, in towards the heart. And exhale down to the floor. Take the breath, left leg back and drop the heel, ready for warrior two. Float the arms. You can always bring the hands onto the thighs if you need to save a little energy. Hands come high and onto the inside of the front leg. Spin the back heel, take the foot a little further back. Press the front arm and leg together so there's a sense of a isometric contraction taking place. And pressing out through the back heel, hopefully you feel the thigh of that leg working, muscles lifting around the knee as well. Try and relax the shoulders away from your ears. Last breath in. Drop the back heel back down onto the floor and open up again. Just draw your left hand towards your left hip and then up towards the sky as you turn the chest open. On the exhale, slow lift up into warrior two. Hands come high again. They go down to the floor either side. Step back into our down dog. We'll come forwards into plank. Half plank. Up dog on the breath in. Roll it back into our down dog. Scissor the left leg in towards the chest and foot through. Take a breath and press to that forward bend. Hands onto the hips. We'll let ourselves lift. Inhale high, hands into the heart. Soften your knees over your toes into chair. And extend the hands out as we breathe in. On the exhale, hinge forwards and down to the floor. Step the right foot back and drop the heel in, ready for warrior two. Floating as we come up. Take a little breath. Inhale the hands high. Down to the floor we go. Step it back. Comes forwards into plank. Half plank. Up dog. Roll it back into our down dog. We'll scissor the right leg high. Lean towards the chest and foot through. Take a breath. Push off the toes. Forward bend. Hands under the hips and we lift. Take the hands high again. This time we'll bring the hands down and place them behind the back. Bring the palms together. Hands in prayer position, if we're able to, towards the shoulder blades. And slowly soften the knees over the toes. Sit down into chair pose. Pull the shoulders and elbows back a little bit. So release the hands back out and all the way forwards. Allow ourselves to hinge down to the ground. Take a little breath. Send the left foot back and drop the heel. Hands alongside the body to lift into warrior two. Get the hands high, down to the floor we go. Stepping back into our down dog. We'll come forwards into plank. Half plank. Up dog. Down dog. Scissor the left leg. Knee in through the chest, foot through to lunge. Push off the back toes. Into our forward bend. Hands onto the hips. We'll let ourselves lift. Set hands high. Into the heart, close the eyes. Stand and breathe. Connect yourself to your feet. And notice how they're moving around underneath, even though you're trying to be still. Let eyes open. We hinge to the floor and just move the two bricks from the side. I'm going to bring them shoulder distance plus a little bit towards the front end of the mat. Take a little breath whilst I'm here and send the right foot to the back of the mat and drop the heel in. Take a little breath from there and allow myself to lift into my warrior two. I'm going to take the front hand up towards the sky so my arm is very close to my ear. Wrap the rear hand around towards the front thigh. Take another breath and extend the top arm up and over towards the back of the mat. And I'm going to try and stretch out through a relatively straight arm as well. So avoid bending that elbow on the top arm. We'll come back to warrior two. Extend out over the front thigh. We'll bring the forearm in towards the groin, but just pressing that in a little bit. We're going to take the top arm up towards the sky and continue to windmill that towards the front of the mat and then down to the floor, keeping the chest alongside of the mat. Back foot pressing down, back leg muscles actively lifting, rotating round. That's 2. 3. 4. We'll come into the 5th. As the hand moves towards the hip, allow yourself to lift back up into your warrior two. Take the hands high, bring them onto the inside of the front leg. We take a little breath and walk the fingers around to the long side. Allow ourselves to turn the toes in, heels out. Up on the fingertips to get some space. First of all, and just get used to pressing the feet down into the floor, working evenly through the ankles. Letting the groin have a little time to stretch. Get used to the idea of where we are. Lifting the tailbone towards the sky at the same time. Connected all of that together. A hinge at the hips. Allow ourselves to float down. We'll carefully lift back up. Walk the fingers around to the front end of the mat, turning the front foot. Allowing ourselves to come back up into warrior two. We'll take the hands high and rotate the chest and hips towards the front mat, spinning on the back foot. Allow the hands to interlace around the back of your head. Draw your elbows back, press your hands into your head, draw the shoulders blades back, press the back of your head into the hands, which are pressing forwards. That's rather complicated. And we'll release. Take the hands high and down to the floor. We'll take a little breath and step into that forward bend. We'll bring the hands onto the hips, so lift up. Sweep the hands high. Bring the hands through your heart. Hinge at the hips, down to the floor. Take a breath. Send the left foot back and drop the heel in. We'll lift into warrior two. Front hand comes high. Rear hand comes around. We'll take a breath. And then we start to arch into that reverse warrior pose. Remember the top arm stretching out from the armpit, straight elbow, strong fingers. We'll come back, warrior two. Extend out over the front thigh. Press the forearm into the ground. Top arm lifts up. And we windmill round. 1, 2, 3, 4, coming around for 5. So lift into that warrior. Take a breath. Bring the hands high. Rotate towards the front of the mat. Hands behind the back of the head. And press the hands, the head, the elbows, and the shoulders. Get the hands high onto the inside of the front leg. Walk the fingers around to the long side, turning the toes in. This time we're going to allow the body to twist a little, so we bring the right hand underneath the heart. Body to the left, extend the left hand to the sky. Come back down, swap it over to the other side. Just working with your breath. And take it to the last time to the left. And the last time to the right. And we'll walk the fingers through to the front of the mat. Take a little breath, push off the toes into our forward bend. Hands onto the hips and let ourselves lift. Bring the hands in towards the heart again. The eyes closed. Let your body assimilate the work we've done whilst we connect to the soles of your feet. And then we'll open the eyes. Shake it all out a little. Take your hands in towards the heart again. Hinge down to the floor. And take a little breath. Just allow ourselves to move that block towards the front of the feet. Lift your toes and the soles of your feet off the ground so that you can place the block underneath the ball joints of your feet. Hands onto your hips, soften your knees a little to lift up. Just a little bit more of a calf stretch. Now, if I ask you to stand here, just pivoting on your heels and flexing your feet up towards you, it will become very difficult very quickly. So that block might not feel like the most comfortable thing, but it's easier than the alternative. Take the last breath in, hands into the heart, soften the knees a little bit and allow yourself to hinge back down to the floor. And we'll lift the feet just enough, move the block back out and put it out to the side. Now we're going to sit down deep into chair so the ribs and the thighs touch. We'll take a little breath from here. Allow ourselves to extend the hands out in front so we can sit down really deep. We'll let the body lift halfway up, trying to keep the hips more or less where they were in space. They will lift a little bit, but we try to minimize. Allow the feet to have the weight in the heels so the toes aren't gripping furiously onto the ground. Now we'll bring the hands in towards the heart. Hinge again down to the floor. So take the right foot to the back of the mat and bring the hands out on top of those raised bricks. We're moving to warrior three. Now push off the back foot. Let ourselves lift. Flex foot, square the hips. Now if you can, see if you can come up onto your fingertips so that your body is doing more of the lifting. And the straighter you can press out through that back leg, the easier it'll actually feel. Now soften the front knee and let the back foot return to the lunge. Bring the fingers to the floor and step into the forward bend. Take a breath, and in deep. Take another breath and send the left foot back. Bring the hands out on top of the bricks. Little push off the toes to lift. And then when you feel ready, if you feel ready, lift up onto the fingertips. So it's pretty important to have those blocks feel like they're underneath your shoulders. It just feels, it makes you feel safer. Back leg, we're pressing out as strong as we can. And lean in less and less into the hip of the standing leg and bringing ourselves more sort of centered to the line of the mat. Hips are square to the ground. So hopefully both hip bones are still the same distance to the floor. Almost there. Last breath, soften the back, front knee. Drop the back foot, fingers to the floor again. Take a little breath. Allow yourself to step into that forward bend. And as you do, we'll move the two bricks out to the side. Take a little breath and bring the hands onto the hips. Let ourselves lift. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Soften the knees over the toes. Take a little breath. Lower the weight into the left leg. I have to think about that. And slowly send the right foot back into warrior three. This time we're going to take the arms out wide, so we're kind of like an airplane. Arms facing down. Bring the hands back in towards your heart. Soften your front knee. Allow yourself to step back on 2 feet. Shake out the legs a little bit and the arms. Bring the hands in towards your heart. Soften your knees. Allow yourself to shift the weight to the right foot. Slowly lift the left heel into your buttock and kick it out slowly behind you. Warrior three again. Allow the arms to come out wide into that aeroplane shape. Remember to breathe. Use a lot of energy up, a lot of oxygen, a lot of calories by doing this. Again, just soften the front knee, drop the back foot down, bring the hands towards your heart, and step into the front of your mat. Take a breath, we'll hinge down to the floor. And move that block again, this time to the back of the heels. Stepping the heels onto the corner edges, the toes out to the side. We sit down into a squat, which after flying high, being nice and close to the ground, feels rather luxurious. feels a lot more stable, that's for sure. Legs are starting to quiver a little bit in that one. So just resting the arms on top of the knees for now, and letting those hips stretch out a little bit more. I'm going to try and draw the belly in and lift the chest a fraction so that we're not sort of rounded completely into it. Just makes it easier to breathe and makes the recovery a little bit quicker. Okay, we'll take a little breath from there. Hands behind. Let ourselves sit back onto the floor. I'm going to move the block towards the back of the mat just to support my head. For many people, they'll feel more comfortable with their head on the ground. So allow yourself to experiment a little bit. If you find that maybe you think as you're doing this pose, that could be more comfortable with the head on the floor, feel free to move it out of the way. We're just going to gently draw the right knee in towards the body, take the hands around the shin and let the weight of the arms and the legs just draw that down towards us. And slide the left foot down the side center line of the mat. I'm going to use the toes to get so far and then slide the heel the rest of the way. And I'm going to try and press out through the heel with the foot flexed and the thigh turned slightly inwards. And draw the belly button down to the spine. And breathe. And then we'll release the right foot and use the toes again to slide out until we can have two legs side by side down on the center line of the mat. And notice how your spine feels. Does that feel perfectly straight and aligned? Do your hips feel equal distance from the front of the mat? Or do you need to wriggle around a little bit and adjust? We'll slide the left leg in now and take the hands again around the shin or the back of the thigh. Flexing the foot, turning the thigh inwards and pressing out through the heel on the right leg. Belly's drawn in a little bit. So we're trying to get to a point where the heel and the calf are able to touch the ground. So we're avoiding pressing into the back of the knee. We are just literally pressing out through the heel as if we're trying to push away from the ground to lift ourselves into the slowest jump in history. Try and keep the shoulders relaxed, put the belly drawn in.
And then we'll release the left foot and bring the right foot back in. We'll take the arms out wide, in line with the chest, palms up. And shimmy the hips to the left and let the legs roll down to the right, trying to keep the shoulders on the ground. And I'm going to let this be very passive. Try to let everything relax. And then lifting back up. We'll shimmy the hips gently to the right. Let the legs go down to the left. Try and relax the toes and the ankles. And bring the legs back up again. So into the center line. I'm going to move the block out from behind the back of the head and take the hands, palms face down, almost underneath the cheeks of my bottom. So I want the arms to be straight completely. And I still want my sacrum, part of your spine and pelvis that join, touching the ground, and my lower back into the floor. I'm going to draw the bellies in a little bit. Keeping the neck nice and long. I'm going to draw the knees over the hips, and then try to extend the legs as best as I can, straight towards the sky, pointing the toes. On the exhale, I'm going to let the left leg come halfway down, just as it starts to disappear from my peripheral vision, and then bring it back slowly. Exhale the right, halfway down, and bring it back. Now, once you've done it to each side, you might not need to use your eyes. You might be able to feel that a little bit more easily. And it's only an approximate 45 degrees. So we won't be marking that later on. Now we're trying to bring the legs down slowly and bring the legs back slowly so that we're not rocking into the pelvis and the hips. Last two. To the center. Let the knees bend. Bring the feet back down to the floor. Slowly extract your hands from underneath. But keep them by the side of your body. Make sure your feet are hip distance apart and like the heels feel them now more or less underneath your knees. We're going to come into bridge pose, so we're rolling the spine down, let the hips lift. It's down through the feet evenly to lift the hips towards the sky, pressing into the shoulders and the arms a little. And then we'll use the exhale to float all the way back down. We'll lift again. And come back down. One more time. And this time at the top, we'll take the hands up towards the sky and drop them to the floor behind us. And out of room. Take a little breath and slowly allow the hips to come back down to the ground. Over several breaths, we're trying to let the very sticky part of our spine between the neck and the middle of the back to unravel itself. So you might find some sticky places. The floor might seem like it's a long way away, especially that last half inch, but allow your tailbone to gradually and gently come into the ground, taking the full length. And you can lift your arms up towards the sky and back alongside your body. Wiggle the feet together and just come into a figure four. So we'll draw the left knee towards us and then extend the leg to the sky, turn the toes out. We'll take a breath and bend the knee so the ankle is now to the outside of the right thigh. And let the left knee travel forwards. Come up on tippy toes, right foot. Draw the right knee in, bringing the belly with us. The left hand goes through the center. Right hand goes around the outside, either on the shin or the back of the thigh. And keep the foot flexed on that left leg, the one nearest to you. Release from there. Now we'll extend the leg up towards the sky and roll the ankle around a couple of times just to release from that holding of the flexion of the ankle. And then bring the foot back down. We'll take it to the opposite side, so lifting the leg, turning the toes, bend the knee on the exhale, flex foot already taking place. We're letting the right knee travel forwards, we're trying to keep the hips square, so it's coming from the knee traveling forwards. We're opening the hip joint, not tilting the pelvis down towards the front of the mat. Big difference. Come up onto the tippy toes, draw the belly down, draw the left leg in, right hand through the center, left hand around the outside, keeping the feet flexed on the right foot. And release. Stretch out the leg for the last time, roll the ankle around a few times. Bring the foot to the floor. We'll slide the heel to each corner to begin Shavasana. Hands to the side. That ruler's distance is a good measure. Allow the palms to face up towards the sky. Just wiggle the shoulders underneath. Wiggle the hips a little bit. Stretch your toes and fingers. Gradually let yourself settle to stillness. With a soft jaw, eyes closed. Begin to stretch those fingers and toes again. And roll the wrists and ankles, letting the body reconnect. Becoming more aware of our surroundings, we can take a longer breath. Begin to stretch out in any way that feels good. Long breath in. Slide your heels along the floor towards you. And ease them easing towards your body for the gentlest of hugs. And roll gently onto the right side. And then let the hands press into the floor eventually to lift myself up on an exhale. And round, back to seated. And the hands coming towards your heart. You take a breath in, closing your eyes. So exhale, let the chin drop. Finding the belly drawn to your spine, bow to the floor. Seals your practice. Inhale, lifting back up. Head lifts, eyes open. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me for this morning's dynamic class. Hope you enjoyed. See you again soon.